Live stream audio check. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining this afternoon's meeting of the North Somerset Council Cabinet. As usual, just to remind colleagues that we're streaming this live on YouTube, so make sure that your behaviour is appropriate for a global audience. I noticed that a number of YouTube stars have been making appearances on reality TV shows lately. So there's always hope for some of us, isn't there, that global fame and our role as influencers will lead to bigger and brighter things. But failing that, let's go through the agenda for today's Cabinet this afternoon. Before I formally start the meeting, can I just welcome Matt Lewis, who is going to be joining us in the new year as our Director of Corporate Services and Transformation. It's really great to have you on board joining the team, and thank you for coming along to sit in and I know have some early fact-finding meetings. I should also say that barring an unforeseen set of events, this will be the last Cabinet meeting for our outgoing Director of Corporate Services, Amy Webb. You'll have like a prolonged goodbye over a few weeks, I'm sure, Amy, but I wanted to just obviously put on record our thanks for all your advice and support over the last few years, and particularly in terms of the business that Cabinet has had to address since you joined the council a few years ago, and obviously wish you well in the future. And just to reiterate, you're going to have to put up with this several times over the next few weeks, so sorry about that. Okay, the first item on the agenda is addresses by members of the public. We haven't got any today. Item 2 is apologies for absence. I believe we've got Councillor Solomon's apologies, but everyone else is here. And at that point, can I also just welcome Councillor Hugh Mallion to his first public Cabinet meeting as our incoming Cabinet member for Highways and Transport. Welcome, Hugh. And again, I'm just going to put on record our thanks to Councillor Hannah Young, who has done a brilliant job as the Cabinet member for Planning and Transport since 2023. We really appreciate all of your hard work and efforts, Hannah, and look forward to continuing to work with you in the future. Item 3, declarations of disclosable pecuniary interest. Are there any? Nope. Okay, thank you. So then item 4 is the minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of October. Can I have a show of hands to indicate support for the minutes? Thank you, and I'll sign those off. Thank you very much. Item 5 is non-Cabinet councillors' addresses. I don't think there are any. Item 6 is the forward plan for the 3rd of December, which is for noting. Any comments on that? Otherwise, we will just note that. Very good. We're doing tremendously well, everyone. Item 7, Adoption West future commissioning arrangements. So that's a report from Councillor Gibbons. So, Catherine.
Thank you. So this report, I think, is important. Obviously, it reflects our corporate plan to make sure our children have the best possible lives. And this is important because it is about children's lives. It's about ensuring that some of our most vulnerable children are given safe, stable and loving and permanent homes, and that adoptive families receive the right support at the right time. So Adoption West, as you probably are aware from reading the report, has been operating successfully since 2019 as a partnership between 6 local authorities. The evidence before us shows that it is a stable, high-performing service, rated good by Ofsted, with over 500 adoptions completed and thousands of families receiving ongoing support across the region. An independent options appraisal, as you've seen, has been carried out, and it's very clear in its conclusions. No other alternative delivery methods, whether returning services in-house, moving to hosted arrangements or commissioning a voluntary adoption agency, would deliver better outcomes or better value for us in terms of both service and better value for money. All would involve significant disruption, cost and risk, especially for the children and families who need stability above everything else. That's why the recommendations before us, I think, are both sensible and proportionate. So, first, colleagues, we are being asked to agree in principle to continue North Somerset Council's participation in Adoption West beyond February 2027 as our regional adoption agency. Second, we are asked to delegate authority to the Director of Children's Services in consultation with the Cabinet member, that's myself currently, to work with partner authorities to review and refine the operating, financial and governance arrangements. This will ensure long-term sustainability, value for money and alignment with national policy on permanence and adoption support. And third, the Cabinet will receive final fully developed proposals for approval before the contract expires in 2027, ensuring continued democratic oversight and accountability. This approach, I think, allows us to meet our statutory duties, protect vulnerable children and benefit from regional expertise and economies of scale, while also ensuring any future arrangements are robust, affordable and fit for purpose. In short, this is an evidence-based, child-focused decision that builds on what is already working well, avoids unnecessary disruption and keeps children's welfare at the heart of our services. So for all those reasons, I support the recommendations and I hope that my Cabinet colleagues will accept this report and also support the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Can I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Roger. Any questions or comments on this paper? Nope. Okay, thank you. In which case, can colleagues indicate their support for the recommendations? Thank you very much. And we'll move on to item 9, which is the Council Change Programme. And this is a report from Councillor Caniford. Mark, over to you.
Wow, we are motoring, Leader, this morning, this evening, this afternoon even. Just a couple of points I would like to quickly make. Did you have another?
They're saying I have a lot, but I don't mind. You go first.
Okay, all right. So
What
why I wasn't
a
ready.
We're motoring so quickly. I've managed to miss one completely.
We can either go back or I'll continue and she'll come back. Let me.
We'll carry on with item 9 and then we'll go back to item 8. So, look at this. This is my YouTube career dashed already, isn't it?
Down the drain. However, so I just wanted to just say a couple of points around this because I think most councillors, certainly Cabinet members, are fully aware of the transformation challenges that we are currently facing. This report sets out our approach and the delivery for the comprehensive change to secure us financial stability. This is not an option. Councillors need to understand this is absolutely essential. And this report seeks the support from the Cabinet for the draft programme and the ambitions that are shown within here. But let's not forget the transformation is not only about saving money, but it's also about being more effective, more efficient, more resilient and better services in many cases. You know, these are things that we should be striving to do in any case. We won't always get these things right, but working together as a whole council, understanding that these issues are essential, we can fix the issues that we find on this journey, which we are all learning. And it is great to now have Matt Lewis with us, who has done transformation in the past and gets a lot of this and will understand some of the challenges and pitfalls that we will face. But let's not forget the fantastic work that's been done, because in the current MTFP, we already have 18.4 savings through transformation programmes up to date, which has been a huge achievement, but we do have to go further. Leaders will be aware, and hopefully most councillors now be aware, I'm seeking to populate a board for transformation with council members. The requirements for that board have been sent out. I have had some interest, but if any councillors want to be interested in sitting on that board, please let us know. And they will work closely with myself as the Cabinet Member for Transformation and certainly the Director of Transformation. But I think let's not just say this is really tough, let's also highlight some of the achievements through transformation so we can see that it does work. Integrated transport, £1 million saving. Waste services, £1.1 million saving. Introducing corporate landlord service, which will definitely have a saving. Highways, 800k saving simply through working in closer partnerships and taking on some of the responsibilities for the works ourselves. So the real themes we have to work around through transformation is prevention, digital and AI, commissioning and commercial, and resourcing and productivity. These are the things we need to do. These are the things we are trying to do. And with this change in direction and support of this programme, we will be able to drive those forward and start getting these savings made.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark. Can I have a seconder for that paper? Thank you, Catherine. Any questions or comments on the change programme paper? Yep, Roger and then Annemieke. So Councillor Whitfield.
Thank you. I just wanted to say I am so pleased to see this come before Cabinet now. I think we've got some real challenges ahead of us, and the only way that we're going to rise to the challenge and deal with the issues that we've got, certainly the financial issues, is through a strong and robust transformation programme. And I think this sets the basis for that. And I hope that the Transformation Board will make some real differences in the way that this council delivers its services in the future.
Thank you, Roger. And Councillor Waite, Annemieke.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that a huge thank you for this entire paper. I think it's really clear, and I felt really strongly when I was reading it. We so often, certainly on social media, and I have to say I don't spend a lot of time on social media, but when I do, I see so many people commenting on, oh, the council doesn't save any money, oh, the council is wasting this, that and the other. This document sets out so clearly the work that has already gone on in the various departments, and it makes it very clear the steps that we are taking as a council to make sure that we work smarter and better and to change the way we do things going forward, making the best use of things like new technology. I think it's an excellent document, and I just wanted to flag that and say it's a really, really good document. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I've got Councillor Petty next. Bridget, please.
Thank you. Like others, I wholeheartedly recognise and agree the need to cut our cloth to the finances we have. And obviously, cutting is, financial savings is the name of this game, and this is what we have to do here. Despite that, I think I would still ask that will we keep, when you are making decisions, can we ensure that we are keeping some objective about the vision and the commitment of our organisation, whether it's to be open, fair and green, or whether it's to protect our children and our vulnerable adults first. It's just, while we do not genuinely have lots of choices, I still think that when it comes to making a decision about change and a decision about how best to re-deliver a service, there are always going to be circumstances where some parts of our community are impacted more or less. And I think all I'm asking is, can we ensure that as we do that, we're also able to articulate how that continues to match the principles and objectives of our organisation, of what we have all committed to do working together. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. Councillor Gibbons, Catherine.
Thank you. Funnily enough, I was going to say that we are going to be committed to doing the very things that Councillor Petty just mentioned. And to say that, again, I welcome the report. I was lucky enough to attend a training weekend on transformation run by the LGA. And I felt there that we were already well ahead in some areas in terms of transforming our services. But I think what I learned, and that, as Councillor Petty highlighted, is that, yes, it's about saving money, but primarily it's about doing things differently and better in a changing world. The old adage that you can't go on doing the same thing and expect a different result stands true in local government. And I think this programme is for me, and looking at the work within children's services, it is about doing things efficiently and often doing them better and getting a better result for our residents and for those vulnerable people who depend on us, because we are doing it efficiently and we are constantly re-examining the parameters with which we deliver our services. So again, I'd like to thank you for the report.
Thank you. I haven't got any other speakers, so just before I come to Mark, just to say I think this is a very much a welcome report, and I would just echo what Mark referred to in his introduction, which is although this is an important milestone in our transformation approach, this is not new, this is not just starting now. We have been working on transforming our services and changing our delivery models over a long period of time, and that has helped us to deliver significant savings, efficiencies and improvement in outcomes. But I think we all recognise that we're now in a world where we've got to step the pace of that change up. We've got to do things quicker and more ambitiously. That's partly why this transformation board and transformation programme has been set up. It's why we've got a new incoming director with a specific transformation focus. And I think the message from Cabinet and from all members will be, we've really got to motor through this and make it happen. This can't be a strategy that sits on the shelf and doesn't get delivered upon. And I look forward to working with colleagues to make sure that we give the appropriate scrutiny and challenge that we need to, but that we really drive this programme to successful outcomes. Mark, do you want to just respond to some of the comments?
Yes, first of all, it was amiss of me, Leader, to not thank Amy, because Amy's picked up this baton of transformation, and I'm not sure whether it is Amy's specialism, but she's done a super job in driving those savings initially. And I know, like you said, she's going to hear a lot of this, but that's one personal thanks I want to give her, since I took over the role of transformation only in June. But Bridget, we will always be ruled, governed, directed by our corporate plan. And we know those pillars in the corporate plan are important to this council, and that's why we did it as we did, and you were there at the time. So those principles don't change. Yes, there will be tough decisions to make. Yes, we will have to make decisions we don't like. But that's just through the business of the council and the simple fact, you know, I think you said it yourself, we have to cut our cloth, and it's frustrating and annoying, but I'm sure we'll get our chance to voice our concerns over what governments are doing to us over the next few months. And I just the last one, it is really important, and Matt and I will talk about this, I've no doubt. The fact is, this is not a shelf strategy. This one is a working strategy, something we'll put on our documentation to make sure that Cabinet members take some responsibility and certainly have a handle on the transformations within their remits, because I think we all have a responsibility in terms of the Cabinet to make sure we know where we are in transformation, we know what is succeeding and what isn't, and helping each other drive the successful transformation programmes and then find more. So that is the challenge. It's more of a challenge than we've asked Cabinet members to do in the past, but it's, I'm afraid, time to step up, and I know every single one of us, Cabinet members and the leader, is quite capable of stepping up and will step up. So I ask for support of this report, and let's drive this forward and really get going.
Thank you very much, Mark. So would Cabinet colleagues like to indicate their support for the recommendations, please? Thank you very much. We'll now, just to keep everyone on their toes, go back to item 8, which is the Commissioning Intentions Plan for Children's Services, which is a report from Councillor Gibbons. Catherine, if nothing else, it broke up your slots, didn't it?
Yes,
so.
you give you a nice rest from hearing my voice. That's why I had to ask a question or make a comment. Right, yes, it's kind of relevant to what we've been talking about. And I just want to start by saying that this, again, is a paper that really matters, because behind every commissioning decision we make are real children, real young people and families who rely on us to get this right. Children's Services commissioning intentions for 25 to 26 are set out in this paper, how we will plan the commissioned services that support children in care, care-experienced young people, children with disabilities and those with special educational needs. These are some of the most vulnerable residents in our communities, and we have a legal and a moral responsibility to make sure that they get the right support at the right time and in the right place. The strategy is firmly grounded in the reality of the challenges we face. We are seeing continued growth in the number of children in care, of care-experienced young people and children with EHCPs, alongside an increasing complexity of need. So this report explains how strategic commissioning, including greater use of frameworks, dynamic purchasing systems and sub-regional collaborations, will help us manage these pressures as effectively as possible, improve the stability of the market and reduce reliance on ad hoc spot purchasing. I am encouraged that this approach isn't just about contracts, but about quality, stability and relationships. So working more strategically with our providers and partners, we can improve consistency, reduce disruption and create services that are more reliable for children and families. Also, what matters to me personally, I think, is the strong emphasis we have placed on listening to children and families. This strategy, again, commits to an evidence-based commissioning that includes co-production and the child's voice, hopefully ensuring that services are shaped by lived experience and genuinely focused on improving outcomes. So the recommendations before us are clear. First, we are asked to support the Children's Services commissioning intentions for the period October 2025 to December 2026, providing a clear direction for the service. Second, we are asked to approve our participation in the commissioning activities set out in the appendix, with the appropriate delegation to the Director of Children's Services to progress procurement in line with contract standing orders. Supporting these recommendations gives officers the clarity they need to move forward while ensuring that we, the Cabinet, retain proper oversight and accountability. So in short, this paper is about planning with purpose, using public money responsibly and, most importantly, making sure that children and young people in North Somerset are safe, supported and able to thrive. So for those reasons, I'm happy to support this and I encourage my colleagues to accept the report. And I know that the Director of Children's Services is here in the room if there are any questions on detailed matters. So thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Mallion. And any questions or comments? Councillor Petty, Bridget.
It's kind of a query. It's just that I note in the recommendations it's for a one-year decision, really, like it's up until 2026. Whereas in other commissioning and procurement projects, I had a briefing this morning about a 10-year contract. And in other ways, we work on 5-year contracts or 10-year contracts. Do you mind just giving me a little more information about why we would only be doing a 1 year, given the words like stability and ongoing, when to me that sounds like a piece of work that will have to repeat itself in 12 months. And I recognise how much effort it takes to do contractual and commissioning processes. Thanks.
I think I'll be naughty and ask Claire to answer that one because it seems sensible, since she's in the room, that she can give us the accurate reasons. I could as well, but anyway, over to Claire.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm Claire Shields, the Director of Children's Services. It is a commission intentions for a year, but you'll see in the appendix some of the contracts are for more than a year. So it's setting out the commissioning that we're commencing or need to plan for this year. But some of the contracts will be longer than that, Bridget.
Very good. I can't see any more hands. So on that note, would colleagues like to indicate their support for the recommendations, please? Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to item 10, which is the joint finance report and quarter 2 performance management update, which I'm presenting. So the report sets out the latest position on our medium-term financial plan and the development of next year's revenue budget, and it confirms that the financial challenge facing North Somerset has become even more acute. It updates members on the size of the projected budget gap over the medium term, what is driving that gap, and how far our current savings and mitigation plans go towards closing it. Council tax rises are, I'm afraid, as has been the case for some years, unavoidable in order for us to protect services, because historic decisions to keep council tax lower than in similar areas, year-on-year reductions in national funding and sharp increases in costs and demand have created a gap too big to bridge with efficiencies and reserves alone, certainly not at the pace that we require. When we set the budget for this year in 2025-26 back in February, we were already forecasting a substantial shortfall over the coming years, driven largely by inflation, higher borrowing costs and rising demand, and costs in adults and children's social care. Since then, those pressures have intensified. In particular, the government's fair funding review assumes that councils will charge £2,060 for a Band D property, which is £267 more than North Somerset, baking historic differences into future funding. Whilst our revised calculations show us that we are going to be approaching £24 million worse off over 3 years as a result of the funding reforms, which is higher still than the initial analysis that's referred to in the paper at 17.4 million found. For many years, North Somerset has had one of the lowest levels of council tax in the region. Whilst that might have superficially sounded attractive, it has meant that less money has been coming in every year. When you add proposed changes to the funding formula and rapidly rising demand, the gap in our budget has simply become too big. The report walks through updated assumptions on pay, contracts, government funding, social care, home-to-school transport and temporary accommodation, plus capital and treasury impacts on revenue. We've identified significant savings, efficiencies and income proposals, many of which are already well underway through our productivity and transformation programme, but a residual gap remains, with our reserves too limited to cover it. It is therefore the case that higher council tax rises are now unavoidable if we are to keep essential services running and avoid a financial crisis. Without them and without permission for exceptional financial support from the government, then social care, vulnerable children support and basic infrastructure will experience more cuts and measures to reduce our spending to the legal minimums only. So you'll note from the report and the recommendations that we are applying to government for exceptional financial support. That is the last resort safety net. It's not a bailout or a grant. The government doesn't give us any more money, but what they can do is give us flexibility to treat some of our day-to-day spending as capital to spread costs over time, and also permission to exceed the 4.99% council tax cap that has been in place for many years. Any extra borrowing and capitalisation has to be repaid, so that's not an easy option either. But the alternative to exceptional financial support does mean more cuts and the real risk of a Section 114 notice, which is often described as effective bankruptcy for the council. This is not a position that we want to be in, but we are hamstrung by historic decisions on council tax levels and then demand and cost pressures for social care which are outside of our control. What we will commit to is that every pound that we raise from higher council tax rises, we will use to protect essential services, especially for the vulnerable, and we will be fully transparent and open about how the money is spent. You can already see lots of information about the council's budget and spending in year and for future years on our website, and we will continue to try and communicate that to our residents and council taxpayers so that they can understand the pressures that we're facing, the reasons for them, and what we're trying to do to tackle that. So this report is very much asking Cabinet to note the updated position, to endorse the work that officers have undertaken to close the gap, to agree to explore that exceptional financial support process and everything that that means, but also to note that ultimately we've still got a long way to go before we know where we'll end up on the budget. We haven't received our final local government grant settlement figure for next year yet. Until we get that, we can't plan in detail the numbers that are reported in the MTFP, And of course, ultimately, this is a decision that will go back to full council to approve the budget and any decision to accept or not any offers of exceptional financial support from government. It's also important to note that asking for exceptional financial support is not the same as receiving it, and the government will also go through a robust process of assessing our need and evaluating whether we're doing the right things before taking a view about whether to give us permission to use the flexibilities available. So we're trying to make the difficult but responsible decisions. We're trying to get to a situation where we can set a balanced budget for 2026-27 and ensure that we've got sustainable finances for the medium term. But the fundamentals are that we're operating in an environment where the national rules and statutory obligations that we have as a council to meet particularly care needs are set by government, but they are not funded by government in full. And we're also operating in an environment where, for historic reasons, our ability to generate income through council tax is lower than the average English unitary authority. Taken those things together with that £24 million reduction in our government grant over 3 years, and that tells you why we're in the situation that we are. So I'm moving the recommendations. I'll ask for a seconder and then obviously welcome debate. So thank you, Councillor Waite. Any questions, comments, please? So I've got Councillor Cartman Ash online.
Can you hear me okay? Just checking.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay. So my question is, what concrete steps are we taking today to ensure that if EFS is not granted, we do not end up under government intervention or commissioners being appointed? Or are we actually saying that without EFS, the reduction in funding from the Labour government's effectively bankrupt the council?
Thanks, Ash. So I wouldn't characterise, you'll be shocked to discover that I wouldn't characterise it as either of those things. So what we are doing, so I can give you the assurance that what we are doing is we're continuing to work through the budget. We've obviously got an ambitious transformation programme. We are looking at Plan B options. You know, what happens if we don't get exceptional financial support? What happens if the amount of support that we're given and flexibility we're given is a lower amount? And of course, we want to be in a position where council has got choices to make when it comes to the budget setting in the new year. So very much we are doing the hard work to identify further savings and further efficiencies that we can bring to the table to further close that gap. But the bottom line, and being honest about the situation, at the moment, sitting here today, I cannot give you an assurance that we can avoid a Section 114 and a bankruptcy position without exceptional financial support. And you're absolutely right, a key driver for that is the decision of the government to change the funding formula, which is absolutely ripping further funding away from local services. There is no question that that has been the straw that's broken the camel's back. Bridget, Councillor Petty.
I think carrying on that theme, thank you. Thank you for what you've just said, Mike, because it does help to really clarify, I think, much of the significant difficulties that we are currently in. I think I have 3 questions. I'm not very good at one question. 1, is the timing that we are currently experiencing, the timing of the information that this Labour government is giving us, is that making our situation harder? It may have been a leading question. If we get exceptional circumstances, which of course none of us want to do, will it definitely take us out of being in 114 going bankrupt territory? And then finally, as I understand it, this new government, which is still quite new, was committed to devolution, which surely is about power at the lowest level being able to deliver community services. And I just don't see that they are supporting us with the finances with which to deliver those local services for our communities. But what I really, that question was what is the most helpful thing that we could tell our residents and our community at this time, given the circumstances? Thank you. Or what action could they take at this time? Thank you.
Thanks, Bridget. 3 very good questions that I'm sure you know the answers to. So always the best kind of question, aren't they? Is the timing difficult? Absolutely, it is. Local government finance, for the benefit of the YouTube audience, local government finance has always been disastrously chaotic, and the timetabling of it and the sequencing of it has never been helpful. So we've been required to set budgets in advance of knowing what our government grant is going to be, and sometimes in advance of knowing what the rules would be about how much council tax you can raise, and sometimes in advance of knowing what legislation and policy requirements the government would have. That's always been the case. Because we do have a very command and control London-centric system of government in this country, which doesn't naturally trust local government to make sensible decisions. And that's not a party political point, that's just the reality over the last probably 100 years. This year, it's been particularly difficult because we know that the government announced in the summer that they were going to introduce a fair funding review. They consulted on it over the summer. We modelled what the impact would be based on the consultation that they ran during the summer. They then published a couple of weeks ago the final policy position, which was different again. So we've then modelled the impact of that. So that's how we've gone from a 17 million worse off to 24 million worse off. That's been published now. We then had the budget, which of course didn't announce anything about local government at all of any significance. We've got a deadline for submitting exceptional financial support requests, which are at the end of this week, which is in advance of getting our settlement figure from the government. So again, chaotic and unhelpful sequencing. And then even having gone through all of those hoops and hopefully having a bit of clarity, we won't actually know whether the government is going to give us any exceptional flexibilities. They've said until February, which is obviously the last possible minute really, in terms of our budget setting process. So all of this is extremely unhelpful sequencing and timing. So yes, that does not help in the slightest for short-term or long-term planning. You asked if we get exceptional financial support, will we definitely be out of Section 114? I think the answer to that is hopefully, but not necessarily, because it depends what the extent of the exceptional flexibility we're granted is. And it also depends on what our spend pressures become, because what we have seen over the last few years is, despite the best efforts to plan and rebase our budgets according to what we forecast demand and costs to be, they've still exceeded those rebasing. If that trend was to continue, we've all talked before about the graph of doom in local government finances. I'm afraid the graph of doom is alive and well. And what that means is there is a point not too far away where the cost of providing these services exceeds the total possible budget available. And a one-off exceptional financial support flexibility may not be enough to stave that off. So a really big challenge facing us over the next few years, which leads me on to your third point about devolution and what can people do. I completely agree with you about devolution. The answer to this is reform of council tax and local government finance, some of which the government have done and some of which they've backed off of, and trusting local communities to make decisions for themselves. And I'm afraid the government is still reluctant to do that. So for all the warm words, we've still got a capping regime. We've still got to jump through hoops to make decisions about how we spend our money locally. And that is a nonsensical way of doing things, which is effectively putting us in a straitjacket and then saying, by the way, off you go and solve all of these problems that are outside of your control. So what do we need to be saying to our communities? Well, the first one is, please take the time to try and understand what the pressures are. I know that people will say, the council wastes money, it spends money on things that it doesn't need to, you're all incompetent, you're all fat cats, etc., etc. Some of that's probably true. I'm going to whisper it. Some of that might be true, but it's not causing the issues that we're facing in terms of our finances. What is causing it is those cost and demand pressures for our big areas of spend. More than 2/3 of our spending on adult and children's social care, That's the thing that is pushing us over the edge. And then when you compound that with low council tax, which people don't believe but is true, our council tax is low, and you compound that with the government stealing 24 million back out of the pockets of North Somerset residents, we're in a situation where we're in an unsustainable position. And the truth is, we can't mitigate our way out of it. Something big has got to change, and that's what we're trying to deliver. But please ask people to lobby their MPs, because ultimately only change to the system is going to fix this. We can ask for exceptional financial support. It will help us to get through 26-27, but it won't change those fundamentals, and that's where we need government action. And simply taking money from areas that have been low spending, low taxing, efficient, well-run councils like North Somerset and sending it north is not a solution. Sorry, I said to someone earlier that I was going to rant a lot today, and I have delivered. Any other questions or comments on anything I've said? Go on, Annemieke, go for it. Councillor Waite.
Just a very cheeky one. I just want to say I'm really grateful that you've done your rant, because otherwise I would have done it.
Thank you very much. So that's the first rant endorsement of the day. Very good. But it's really difficult circumstances. I know that we say this every year, but the facts speak for themselves. You can look at the numbers. And by the way, if people have got brilliant ideas about how we can save even more money and do things more effectively, please do let us know, whether that's residents listening at home, partners, stakeholders, or councillors, because, you know, genuinely we're trying to find solutions here and do the best that we can to protect our community and keep the show on the road. So, on that note, I'm going to ask colleagues to support the recommendations in the report, please. Thank you very much. And item 11 is oral reports from Cabinet members. So, any colleagues who want to make an oral report this afternoon? So, Councillor Ho-Maris, Jenna.
Thank you very much. Well, it's very hard to follow the rant. This won't be a rant. But it is an update about the North Somerset Health Wellbeing Board's work to support the NHS's neighbourhood health and care plans that they've asked all the health wellbeing boards to put together. So actually, as a reminder, while our local authority has a net budget of about £240 million a year, our NHS area, which is BNSSG, Bristol, North Somerset, South Gloucestershire, and then soon will be Gloucestershire as well, has a budget of £5 billion. So, you know, maybe let's try and work together better to try and prevent some of these costs from being incurred. So, the North Somerset Health and Wellbeing Board has convened 3 additional workshops to discuss the government's neighbourhood health and care plans, which were set out by the July NHS 10-year plan. Neighbourhood health and care, it does what it says on the tin, really. It means bringing together services across NHS, social care and community to work in a joined-up way at a place level to improve outcomes for people. And it's about prevention, it's about person-centred care and care closer to home. One of our places has already been recognised nationally as a pilot healthcare project, and it's the Woodspring project. So that's one of 43 nationally that's been recognised. So I suppose an update on this is that we have been tasked to come up with the neighbourhood healthcare plan, but actually we haven't received the guide to how to do the plan yet. So it has been promised, and they're working very hard on it, but we expect it by the end of the month. But until then, it's quite difficult to put together a plan when you don't have the guidelines for what the plan is supposed to look like. So that's a little bit difficult. But I think I would say that is very encouraging that we have had meetings with all the relevant partners to improving people's health and well-being in the area, and also in the NHS area, the wider area, BNSSG. And, you know, it is really encouraging that people are very willing to work together across, whether they're a hospital or GPs, so the healthcare organisations as well as the community organisations, to try and get a plan together to really improve outcomes for people and do more on prevention. There's a lot of energy in that. So I really am very hopeful. And I think this is an opportunity for us to come up with a better framework for our ICB area to put in that investment into prevention by looking at our neighbourhood health and care plans. So I'm hopeful. I think the last thing is just to acknowledge the input from our Director of Public Health and the officers in contributing to this. I mean, it is a lot of work, and convening meetings and hearing lots of different bits of evidence and pulling together all our existing work across the council and all our partners. So thank you very much. And it will continue. And also to contact myself or the public health team if you want to be involved, because neighbourhood health and care is not just about health care. Health care is only 20% of the outcomes of people's health. The rest, 80%, is all the other things, including the wider determinants of health. So that is transport, housing, education, employment, and all the other services that the council actually provides. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jenna. Very helpful update. Any other comments from Cabinet members? No? Okay, great. And item 12 is urgent business, of which there is none. So at 3:16, I can close the meeting. Thank you very much, colleagues. Appreciated.